Part 3 of a three-part series. I don't actually know if anybody's going to watch the second video even, because I'm actually shooting this on the same day as the second video, but I have to do it now because my wife and son are going to be coming back from a trip to go visit the in-laws like tomorrow. So that means like today is the last day that I'll have to actually make a video if I want to do so. So I'm gonna shoot all the principal photography now and maybe do the editing later. I don't know. Well, anyways, assuming that I do it, hey, here's part 3. Make 3 true we statements each. For instance, we are both in this room feeling... So this is another one that's going to be tricky to answer because it's a video. But, well, let's see. Okay, so we both like YouTube videos. At least I like making them and you like watching them, hopefully. We both like making connections. I think that's one of the reasons that we do the things that we do. And, oh, in a weird way, we're both present in this moment. And this is kind of interesting because I'm speaking in your past, but in my current present. Like, you know, this is me actually talking now, and on the other end, sometime in the future, this is you actually watching now. And so, in a weird way, this is kind of like time travel. Like the things that I'm thinking, I'm now trying to say out loud, and then in turn, sometime in the future, you will hear, and then you will process in your mind. And so, I don't know, that's kind of a neat concept. Like we're both present at different times at the same moment. Whoa. Complete this sentence. I wish I had someone with whom I could share my commute. So, I work pretty far from where I live, and I can spend up to 4 hours a day commuting, which is a long time. Unfortunately, I work for Google, and they provide these really great buses, and so there's Wi-Fi on there, and there's a pretty smooth ride, and I don't have to think about driving and all that. And I can actually get, you know, work done on there, and I'm usually working. But you're not really supposed to be chatting with other people and things like that on the bus because, you know, people are trying to work in kind of like an office environment. But that's a long time to be by yourself. It'd be nice to, you know, be able to share that with someone. My wife is usually really busy with the kid, or she's out or something like that. And same with my friends. They're usually pretty busy around the time that I happen to be on the bus. But it would be nice to at least have the option to share that time with someone. Yeah. If you are going to become a close friend with your partner, please share what would be important for him or her to know. I think it's important to know that I'm not always like this. And by that I mean like if you mostly saw me through the YouTube videos or in like some social events or things like that, then you might get the impression that I'm always just like super outgoing and cheerful and things like that. And I genuinely am when I see other people. I get, you know, very excited to hang out with people. But I'm not always like that. Yeah. I mean, I think that's true for everybody, right? There's more to people than what you might just be able to witness externally. Yeah, and that's important to know. Tell your partner what you like about them. Be very honest this time, saying things that you might not say to someone you've just met. So again, this is going to be tricky because this is a video, but I'm going to try to be specific and hope that it applies. I like the fact that you're very passionate. I like the fact that maybe sometimes you do things without thinking, but because you believe in them. Of course, you know, that sometimes leads to mistakes and sometimes that leads to regrets. But I think at the core of it, that's sort of what it means to be human, to have something that drives you and something that compels you in some way. And I can relate to that. Share with your partner an embarrassing moment in your life. Okay, so there was this one time in college. So when you're in high school, like you go through, you know, sex ed and all that, and one of the things they tell you is that you should check your testicles for lumps. And so when I was in college, I was like, okay, checking it out, and I was like, oh, one of my balls feels a little bit bigger and a little bit lumpier than the other one. And I was kind of a little bit concerned, you know. And so I go to the medical clinic, And I tell that to the doctor, and he's like, oh, yeah, okay, we should check this out. He puts on his gloves, I pull off my pants, and then he starts poking around, and he's like, yeah, okay, well, no, this is fine, this is normal. And I was like, oh, thank goodness, I was feeling very relieved. But then he calls over the nurse, and he says, here, come here and check this out. And I'm like, what? And she's kind of attractive. And so this was very awkward. But she, puts on the gloves. And then she starts poking around. It's like, oh, I see. And they're both checking out my balls. Yeah, so that was pretty embarrassing. But on the plus side, no testicular cancer. So that was good. Yeah, always be sure to check yourself. That's important. Yeah. When did you last cry in front of another person? By yourself? The last time that I cried in front of other people was probably at my uncle's funeral a number of years ago in Japan. I was delivering a eulogy. And then this was like years after delivering a eulogy at my dad's funeral as well. For whatever reason, I seem to get asked to speak at funerals more often than at weddings. But yeah, those were both tough. It was tough in the case of my uncle because this was the uncle in Japan that I would spend the most time with. So as a kid, we would go to Japan, in the summers and stuff. And then one year I even went by myself. And I would stay with my uncle and my aunt and my two cousins. So he was the one that I was the closest to. And this was also, my mom's only brother. So it was hard talking at that funeral. I mean, first of all, it was in Japanese, so that was tricky. But the other thing was, it was hard to talk about why he was so important to me, and then also to realize that he was gone. Yeah, so I definitely cried there. And the last time that I cried by myself, when so I broke my hand actually a number of months ago. And at first it was this hand, and it was actually this bone. And I didn't actually even realize that it was broken at first. I mean, it hurt, but I was like, I don't think it's broken. But turns out it was. So we went to the doctor, and I got a cast and everything, and it covered it up to here and stuff. And then I was wearing it for several weeks. But then I got the cast taken off by the physician's assistant, and they pulled everything out, and then they looked at it and stuff. And I noticed that my left knuckle was shorter than my right. The knuckle had kind of moved or disappeared or something. It was kind of disconcerting. I don't know if you can even tell, but yeah, the side's a little bit flatter or something. But I noticed because I know it like the back of my hand, Anyways, so I'm asking the physician's assistant, oh, okay, well, what do we do about that? And she's like, oh, no, the bone's already set. You can't really do anything about that. That's just the way it's going to be for the rest of your life. And I was like, oh, I was a little bit taken aback by that. But whatever, I don't know if anybody's going to notice. So then later on in the day, I ended up, having to run a few errands and stuff. And for whatever reason, that it just sort of got me thinking. And there's a lot of stuff, that happens. And sometimes you can change things, sometimes you can't. And sometimes you just realize that there comes a point where you realize that, this is the way that things are going to be for the rest of your life. Or conversely, maybe there's something that you've thought about for a long time, and you thought maybe something could happen, or I don't know, something might change, but then you realize that no, it's not. And sometimes you just lose things. Yeah, it just really hit me that sometimes you realize that some things are just going to be that way for the rest of your life. And that was pretty hard. And I just started crying in the middle of a parking lot at Target. Yeah.
Tell your partner something that you like about them already.
Well, I really appreciate the fact that you're watching this. I mean, if you watch the other two parts, then that's what, like half an hour of basically me just sitting here talking. Yeah, so I like the fact that you appreciate longer form conversation, some so that's kind of cool. Not everybody does, and yeah, that means a lot to me. Thanks.
What, if anything, is too serious to be joked about?
As a parent, I don't think you can joke about the death of a child, unless that child's like a real jerk.
If you were to die this evening with no opportunity to communicate with anyone, what would you regret not having told someone? Why haven't you told them yet?
So that's going to be a little tricky because I tend to say pretty much everything that comes to mind. I mean, that's not necessarily a good thing. I definitely regret the things that I've said much more so than the things that I haven't said. But as a result, there isn't a whole lot that's been left unsaid. But in this particular case, like in the specific example, if I found out that I was going to die tonight and I didn't have a chance to talk to anybody, um, I would regret not having the chance to say goodbye to Dyson. So I guess in the event of anything ever happening to me, I'd want to say, Dyson, I'm sorry, but Papa had to go. And I love you very much. I'm sorry that I'm not going to be able to be there for the rest of you growing up. But I hope that you know that I've always loved you and I always will. And be good.
Your house, containing everything that you own, catches fire. After saving your loved ones and pets, you have time to safely make a final dash to save any one item. What would it be? Why?
My laptop and or backup drive. Actually, probably the backup drive because it's got more stuff. I mean, everything else can pretty much be replaced, furniture, clothes, all that stuff. But not the memories and the computer stuff, that's got the photos and all that. Also the source code to all my apps. So yeah, I kind of need to hold on to that. Maybe I should do offline backup somewhere. Yeah, I should really look into that.
Of all the people in your family, whose death would you find most disturbing? Why?
Well, I think any parent is going to say their child, and we've only got the one, so yeah, Dyson would definitely be the hardest. I mean, any death is a tragedy, and it's hard to recover from that. But, your own child that's like your hopes and your dreams. I don't know how I would continue without Dyson.
Share a personal problem and ask your partner's advice on how he or she might handle it. Also ask your partner to reflect back to you how you seem to be feeling about the problem you have chosen.
The thing that I struggle with the most is trying to find some sort of connection in a pretty disconnected world. Like, the new job is fantastic. It's got tons of opportunity. It's like really exciting, and it's just a great place to be. But it is really far. So as a result, I'm just physically very far from where all of my friends are, and moving's not really an option. I mean, Tracy and Dyson have roots. We all have roots here, but like in particular, she has a lot of support from friends and a community and stuff, and we own the house and have a mortgage to pay off and all that. So yeah, we don't really want to move, but it is hard maintaining the connections with my old friends. It's also hard, trying to make new friends because I'm away so much because of the whole commute and everything. So I don't really know what to do. But I don't know. We'll see. If you have any suggestions, let me know. Okay, so that was all 36 questions. Thank you so much for watching. It took a lot longer than I was expecting. But if we were actually doing the 36 question experiment thing, at this point, we would stare into each other's eyes for 4 minutes, which is crazy long. Also, it doesn't really work on video. But on the off chance that you want to do that, I'm going to put a link to a video of me staring into the camera for 4 minutes right here. I'm not going to say anything, and it's going to be unlisted, so it's a secret private video that you can access by clicking here on the desktop. I can't imagine anybody actually wanting to do that, but on the off chance that you do, well, there it is. Maybe I'll put a soundtrack or something or in the link so that at least it'll be interesting in that way. I don't know. I'll think of something. That's kind of strange. Yeah. Okay. So anyways, thanks and goodbye.